So, hello, everybody, and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Today, we welcome you back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, October 20th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. I know I had a good rest of my day yesterday. Hopefully you did as well. We got a lot of sports to get to. 2 Monday night games last night. Chiefs, Bills, Cardinals, Cowboys. Chiefs won. Cardinals won. Went 1-1 on my game picks. And, it is crazy how bad the NFC East is. It is crazy how bad the NFC East really is. And I will tell you what, this might be the worst division in all of sports. And I'm talking about baseball, I'm talking about hockey, I'm talking about NBA, although NBA there's only two conferences. But I am talking about, there's divisions, but not many people talk about the divisions. NBA, it's mainly the conferences. People don't really talk about, in the NBA, people don't really talk about your division. I mean, they do, but like, for example, the Nets are in a division, but mainly people talk about the conferences. That's really what the NBA is all revolved around. But even the conferences and stuff, like I've never seen a conference this bad. I've never seen a division this bad. The NFC East is horrible. The best team, the first place team, is 2-4. Just absolutely embarrassing and sad. And with that Cowboys loss last night, that really makes them now a complete open division. The Redskins could win it. As crazy as it sounds, the Giants have a chance. Are these chances big? Not really. Meaning the Giants and the Redskins and things. Are they going to win it? Maybe not, because I don't know if they're just not that good. Eagles, Cowboys, I still think the Cowboys will win it, but it is crazy how bad that division is. And with another loss last night by the Cowboys, and the Cowboys look brutal, by the way, and we'll get to that in a little bit, it is crazy how bad that division is. So, we'll get to that. These are our topics. We got the Monday night games. We got fantasy results. Talk to you all about the fantasy football. And I'm going to kind of start a new thing. I'm going to kind of tell guys you could add off of waivers. So kind of give you a little bit of a preview into this week's action. We are only at Tuesday. We still have a whole day until Thursday night game. But I will give you people, obviously today's usually your day to, get waiver wires and stuff. So, I might give you some advice on that. And then we got the World Series tonight. The game 1 of the World Series is tonight. Dodgers, Rays, go Dodgers. I'm rooting for the Dodgers big time. Hate the Rays. Can't stand the Rays. Hate's a strong word, but I can't stand the Rays. They knocked the Yankees out, and either way, I don't like them. Them and the Yankees are rivals. Just can't root for the Rays. I like the Dodgers. I've always, and a lot of people I know, I've always thought of the Dodgers. They're almost like the Yankees of the National League. They get every year. They're expected to high standards. They're expected to live up to these high expectations. This year for them it was a World Series or bust. Yankees same thing. This year is World Series or bust. The Yankees did a bust. Dodgers are in the World Series, so the Dodgers have succeeded. Dodgers got to win a championship. They've made the World Series 3 out of the last 4 years, so they got to win one. You can't go 0 for what? 0 for? You can't go 0 for 3, 0 for 4. In the World Series. You got to win one. I think they will win the series. I'll preview the whole series today, later on in the podcast. So those are our topics. We'll get into all that later on in the podcast. With all that being said, this is the BSN Arc podcast, and let's get right into it. So yesterday, we got a little bit of a double Monday night action, and I actually will admit, and I was reading some people's, just what people were saying about the games, just NFL stuff. I'll read through NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA. I'll just read through all that stuff. I'm a big sports geek kind of guy. But I was just looking through the NFL stuff, comments on the game, people just talking about the game, looking at the numbers, the stats and stuff, kind of just looking at that stuff. And I was looking at a lot of people, and I kind of feel the same way. Before we get into the actual action, before we really break down the games, both the Chiefs-Bills game and the Cardinals-Cowboys game, before we break down both those games, I kind of want to make a point here. Thursday night football, and I know you might think you'll get what I'm saying in a second. Right now, me starting off with Thursday night football might sound a little crazy, but I am actually really, really, really enjoying these two double Monday Night Football games. I don't know if you are as well. I don't know if the viewers are. Comment down below if you are. I am really, really, really enjoying these two football games on Monday night. Now, I know it's not going to be now in a season like this where it's a very unusual season where you could very well have games be postponed and have to be rescheduled. We might see a couple more of these, moving forward and onto the season. We might see a couple more of these. Now, obviously, we hope you really don't, because that means there was cases and a scheduling conflict. But you might see a couple more of these, and I will tell you what, I have really, really enjoyed these double Monday night games, and that's why I really like Week 1 of the NFL season, because there's two Monday night games. There's always two Monday night games. There's one game that comes on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there's one that comes on 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love the Week 1. There's two Monday night games. It's good. Something about now, Monday night game, I'll watch it. If there's not two, I don't mind. But I really am enjoying these two Monday night games. Now, the one thing is that means that you're going to have to take away a Thursday game. You're not going to have a Thursday night game. And a lot of people, to be honest, I would take it or leave it. I mean, I don't know. If I wouldn't miss it. If Thursday night football and because players and coaches don't like Thursday night football, to be honest, if Thursday night football was if Thursday night football was like, if they had to postpone Thursday night football, like this week, I didn't really miss Thursday night football. Now, in a way, I kind of did. I didn't know really what to watch. Sure enough, there was baseball on. But I wasn't really lost, but I was watching the baseball game and stuff. But Thursday night football, I guess maybe I would have to get used to it. But even the players and coaches, they don't like it because it's a quick turnaround. You play a game on a Sunday. You don't have practice Monday because that's your recovery day. You got practice Tuesday. If you're the road game, you got to travel Wednesday. You have literally one day to whip up a quick game plan. You literally have one day to whip up a quick game plan, get a walkthrough in, and then go on, right? That's literally Thursday football. That's why a lot of people don't like it, especially with the virus impacting the sport. You have to show up a day early. So, kind of before I get into the game, I know it might sound off topic, but I am really enjoying these double Monday night games. The one, like last night, was perfect because I was able to watch both games to the fullest. The 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game between the Cardinals and the Cowboys, that went to 8 p.m., and in the 8-11 game, I was able to watch both of them to the fullest. So I was able to watch both games. Although the Cardinals-Cowboys game, I was watching it, but, you knew it was done. I mean, going into that really second half, you kind of knew, things are getting, 21-3 going to the half, you kind of knew, this game's done, But either way, I was able to watch both games fully. So I actually am enjoying these double Monday night games, and especially the same times are perfect. It is a little early, maybe like 6 or 7 to 10, but even there, I am really enjoying the early game and in the later game, the both Monday night games. I don't know how you feel, if you don't like it or if you like it, but comment down below. I am really enjoying it because, then you're done with one game, especially like that Chiefs game. That game was done so early. Then, after that game, you got another game. If that game was done, there would have been nothing on because baseball was off yesterday. There would have been nothing on to watch. So I am enjoying these double games. Now, does that mean the NFL is actually going to take charge and do it? I don't know. It really all depends on how the ratings are and stuff like that. It's not really what us as fans say. It's more about what the ratings are. If they find that the ratings for both two Monday night games are really up and the ratings for Thursday night games are really down, they might try to adjust something like that. But at the end of the day, it's all about making money. So it really would all depend on how much money they're making and stuff. And it's interesting. Thursday night football, is usually, I know coaches and players don't like it. They try to get it banned a couple years ago. But anyway, I just blabbed off for 10 minutes about that. But I just wanted to make that clear that I am really enjoying them. And I think that there is a shot, maybe if other fans really like it too, that maybe they do remove Thursday night football and bring in these two Monday night games. Just like that. It's really good. And then at the end of the season, you get those Saturday games. Week 14 to 17, you get those Saturday games where they play on Saturday. And I know last year they had a couple of those. You'll get those too. So you have that, then two Monday night games and a Sunday game. And, then every team can practice fully. You don't have one day of practice, then you got to go play a game, right? So, anyway, with all that being said, let's get into the actual games. Comment down below if you like the double Monday night games. But anyway, so last night, Chiefs-Bills played. Chiefs won 26-17. Cardinals-Cowboys played. Cardinals won 38-10. My total game pick record for this week, I went 9-5 again. So back-to-back weeks, I went 9-5. I don't want to say I'm happy because 9-5 isn't bad. But I should have took the Cardinals. It's funny. I'll tell you something really quickly. So I have this app called Bleacher Report. It's a really good app. You could go on, talk to other people. It's a really good sports app. It's probably my favorite out of all of them. I'm on there the most out of all my apps. But anyway, it's a really good app. So they do this thing called Perfect Picks where you can win prizes if you pick certain things right. Sometimes they're odd questions. Like some of the questions might be like, what cleats does this player wear? How many passing yards does this guy wear? It's not always asking you who wins. But anyway, since it was a Monday night doubleheader, one of the questions on the Perfect Picks thing, they give you 6 questions. You got to answer all 6 of them. Once I've gotten all 6 right, I was entered in to win a prize. I never won anything because there could be so many other people that get it all right. So you're one in maybe 200 people that got it correct, so it's difficult. But I got all of them correct once, didn't get anything for it. You can win like an Xbox, you can win like a PS5, shoes, stuff like that. But anyway, it's pretty cool. So I actually picked the Cardinals to win in the Perfect Picks. It asks you who are going to be the Monday night's 2 winners. Kansas City, Arizona, Buffalo, Dallas, Kansas City, Dallas, or something like that. Or Dallas, Buffalo, kind of all the combinations. But anyway, I put down Chiefs and Cardinals. I put that down on Sunday. So then yesterday, I got up. I was kind of looking through the numbers, looking through the spread, and I changed my decision. So if I would have just stuck with what I did, and so on Bleacher Report, I got my pick correct. I actually got my pick correct on Bleacher Report, but realistically, I didn't. So it kind of stinks because I picked them in the first place, and then after looking over the stats and the numbers, I kind of was like, I'm actually going to take the Cowboys. Sure enough, I should have stuck with the Cardinals. But either way, I'm counting as a loss. It's not going to count as a win because I announced it on the podcast, and I'm not going to go back and say, I predicted it right. But it was just funny. So anyway, I went 9-5 on my picks. That moves me to 63-29, I think, overall. 64-29 overall. So, pretty good, I would say. So, yeah. All right, so anyway, with all that being said, now we should get into the action. So, we did, in fact, have 2 Monday night games last night. The first game was a very good game. Second game was a blowout. So, the first game between the Chiefs and the Bills, the Chiefs won 26-17. They moved to 5-1 on the year, and the Bills fall to 4-2. Bills have back-to-back tough losses. That Tuesday game against the Titans, they lost 42-16, and then yesterday they lost 26-17 against the Chiefs. So, the Chiefs are able to bounce back, and that is one thing I really wanted to see what the Chiefs are going to do, right? Because the Chiefs players said it all week long. Andy Reid said it all week long, that these players were really, really, really frustrated about that Raiders loss. And it kind of stinks, too, because that's what sometimes is good. Is if you have, for example, the Thursday night thing. Like, the Chiefs lost on that Sunday. They had to wait a whole nother week to play again. Sometimes when you lose those games, you want to get a quick bounce-back game to get your revenge again. The Chiefs weren't able to do that. But the Chiefs, I'm not going to lie, for the Chiefs, the way they played against the Raiders was not very good. Mahomes struggled. Their defense struggled. They were able to turn it around against the Buffalo Bills. You might be thinking like, oh, yeah, it was the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a very good football team, a team that is very much in contention to get a first-round bye. They are 4-2, but they're going to get a win this upcoming week against the Jets. Oh, yes, I already spoiled my pick. You all probably know I'm not going to pick the Jets. But you know what I'm saying? They are going to they play the Jets, so they can easily have a bounce back. That's 5-2. This is a Bills team that is definitely still in contention to possibly go 12-4, 11-5, maybe, just maybe. They have a very tough games coming up. They have a couple tough games coming up, but there's a shot at 13-3. They really have to go on there. I would think the Bills are still in the range to go 12-4, 11-5. 12-4 and 11-5 is probably the most likely. I think 10-6. I think they're better than 10-6. I don't know, 13-3. They'd have to win all the rest of their games and only lose once. I don't know. I don't foresee that happening. Chiefs 13-3. That's still very likely. But what I'm trying to say here is it is true that the Bills the Chiefs were able to bounce back. They played against a Raiders team who a lot of people are hyping up, a lot of people are talking about, and they did, in fact, go out there and play well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a very good game, 161 yards on the ground. Mahomes had a bounce-back game. Kelsey had a good game despite the fumble. He had a good game. Outside of that fumble, played very well. Had a touchdown. And 62 touchdowns and 65 yards. Outside of the fumble, did very well. Mahomes had 2 touchdowns, 225 yards. He played well. This was a Chiefs team that was able to bounce back from a very tough loss, a very tough pill to swallow after that loss to the Raiders. But this was a very good team, and Andy Reid said it. Andy Reid said it during the week. He said these guys are ready. These guys want to play right now because they want to get their revenge. They want to show the NFL that that was just a hiccup. That was just a mess up. It was a bad game they played. That's all they want to do. They want to show the NFL that, right? And they did go back out there yesterday and played very well. And as for the Bills, Josh Allen early on made some very, very bad throws. And I think that was one of the game changers. Josh Allen really struggled when it came to some of his throws. Went 14 of 27, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And a rating of 73.4. And like I said, I don't think Josh Allen's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I do think he probably is a top 10 this season. I know a lot of people think that he's definitely in the conversation. I'm one of them. But after watching the past 2 weeks, I don't know, he might be barely hanging on because he has really struggled the past 2 weeks. But I still think Josh Allen's got it. He's had a couple hiccups the past 2 weeks. I mean, you look at the teams he's played against, they were 2 very good teams. And to be honest, and I know this might sound crazy because there's never a right time to get on a losing streak, but if there was a time throughout the whole entire season for the Bills to get on a little bit of a slide, to get a little bit of a losing streak, right, it would be now. Because their opponents coming up are very, very winnable games. They have the Jets next week, or this upcoming week. That's a very winnable game. Then they have the Patriots, and the way the Patriots are playing, the Bills can definitely beat them. Then they have the Seahawks. They still might go into that Seahawks game 6-2, which is a very solid record. I would take 6-2. I don't think they're going to go into that game 4-4. Maybe 5-3 if the Patriots come out and play like they did the first 3 weeks of the season. But the Patriots look lost out there, and I'm not even kidding. They look lost out there. They just did not look good at all. Their offense has been sloppy. And the Bills, this is the right time. If I would, there's never, as a player, you never want to look on the schedule and be like, if we're going to have a slide, if we're going to have a little bit of a struggle, if we're going to hit a bump in the road, this is the time. You don't look at that on a schedule, but to be honest, this is the time for the Buffalo Bills. They have a little bit of a bump in the road. Next week, they can gain their confidence back. They play up against a horrific Jets team. You've heard it from me here on the podcast for 6 straight weeks. You understand how frustrated I am with the New York Jets. You understand how bad the New York Jets are. They do get a chance to play them. They get a chance to get back on the winning side of things. And then they play the Patriots, who they could very well go into that Patriots game 5-2, and the Patriots could go into that game 2-4. And you're sitting there thinking, great, we can win this game too. And I really do believe that they can beat the Patriots. And then you go into the Seahawks game, and that's going to be a good game. Do I think they'll win? I mean, I'm not going to try to make predictions 3 weeks out, but then you go into that Seahawks game. But I do think for the Buffalo Bills, this is the time. If they're going to have a hiccup, this is the time to do it. Because they have 2 opponents upcoming the next 2 weeks that are very beatable. The Jets and the Patriots, they're 2 very beatable teams, and the Bills can do that. And Josh Allen could do that. Josh Allen can regain his confidence. This defense can regain their confidence because this defense has struggled a little bit, and they really sorry about that. I was just checking something. I was just had my screen glitched out or something. But anyway, back to what I was saying. This is the time for them to have a mess up would be now. 2 opponents coming up that are 2 very beatable teams. You get back on the right track, and then you go into that game against the Seahawks, and that's going to be a tough game, but at least you'll probably go into that game on the winning side of things. So the Bills did lose, and the Bills played well yesterday. They did not come out to win, but it wasn't like it was a blowout. I mean, a loss is a loss. At the end of the day, a loss is a loss. But anyway, so yeah. So what I was saying was with the whole, the Chiefs thing, or the whole Bills thing, was is that they are in fact a team that still has good. They are still a team that definitely does have good players and definitely can turn it back. I'm just getting a report here. That's why if I sound a little off topic here, I'm just getting a report that the Cowboys players have slammed their coaches, and will actually I'm just getting a report here that they are in fact. So the Cowboys players slam coaches. Coaches are totally unprepared. Another player puts it bluntly, they just aren't good at their jobs. So I'm just getting this news in now. That's why if I seem like I was off topic there, I'm just getting reported now that the Cowboys players slam their coaches. Let me see if I can get more on this. Cowboys rumors. Unnamed player says coaches aren't good at their jobs. Aren't good at their jobs. Wow. So, I'm just getting this news. So, yeah. So that is very interesting. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. So anyway, so back to, right here. So anyway, so back to this whole thing here. So that is pretty crazy. So the Cowboys players are throwing the coaches under the bus. Now it was an unnamed player, but I'm sure this just came out literally 3 minutes ago. That's why I was looking down at my phone, because I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, I was looking. I was just looking at that. So anyway, it is pretty crazy that they are throwing their coaches under the bus and they are blaming it on them. So we'll get more information on this as we go on. All right. So anyway, so let's get back to this. So yeah. So back to my point with the Bills. If they're gonna run into a hiccup, this would be the time to do it. So, all right. So here we go. So yeah. So back to the point with the Bills. This is the time. Anyway. Anyway, so here we go. So the Chiefs and the Bills, we'll go with the stats here. Mahomes went 21 to 26, yards 22, 10.57 was his average, 2 touchdowns, 1 sack, a rating of 128.4. Elair had a big game, like I said earlier, 161 yards. Robinson had a nice game, 69 yards. Travis Kelce, 65 yards. Hill struggled. He only had 20 yards. Just weren't able to get, since they had the 2 safeties back, Hill just wasn't able to really get open because he is mainly that kind of streak guy. And with the 2 safeties back there, they were kind of struggling. So, so Elair had 8 yards catching wise, and Elair had 161 total. He had a very good game, Elair. Now we move on to the Bills. I already read Allen struggled, 73.4 rating, 2 touchdowns, only 122 yards. He struggled, but it was against a good defense. And that late game interception, it's not really like it's one of those interceptions that were big. They were down. It was one of their final drives. It was a one-handed pick. He was kind of just trying to throw it up because he was getting sacked and he needed to make something happen. So that interception's really not on him. I mean, if he would have got sacked, I would have rathered a sack than a pick because you're turning the ball over, but still, he had to make something happen there. I mean, he was under pressure. He had to kind of do something. If he takes the sack, all that time runs off the clock. You lose probably like 20 seconds, and now you're down to like 40 seconds. You just took that 10-second run off due to the penalty. He kind of had to make that happen, so it's kind of tough there. But Singletary had 32 yards. Diggs had a good game, 46 yards and a touchdown. Beasley, 45 yards and a touchdown. They seem like they're the main guys for Buffalo, But yeah, so, anyway. So now we move on to the Dallas Cowboys and the Cardinals game. So we just heard about the Cowboys situation over there. Involving we just heard about the Cowboys situation involving the coaches. That story will still develop more. I'm sure it's going to develop. But it was one of those things where, it's one of those things where I think it's more the frustration of the players more than it is the coaches. I think the players are frustrated. They're 2-4. They just lost. Their franchise quarterback got injured. He's done for the season. You're rocking with Andy Dalton, who, you're rocking Andy Dalton, who is not your kind of guy you want to be your leader, to be your franchise guy. But, it is really, Cardinals, they went 30, the Cardinals really played very well. To be honest, Kyler Murray did not have his best game. He did not have his best game. He went 9 of 24. And just one of those things where, when you go 9 of 24, it was not one of his best games. Now, he can slip away with that late in the game. Because he's playing against the Cowboys defense. This is probably the Cowboys defense. This is probably the worst defense in the NFL. And there might be some other defenses out there that you might think that are worse. The Bengals defense isn't very good. Their offense is very good, but their defense is horrific. I think the Cowboys are the worst defense. So, I'm just trying to think of teams, that Falcons defense is very bad. But I think this Cowboys defense is the worst of them all. I'm sure there's probably like 3 teams around there for that last spot, but I think the Cowboys ultimately are the worst defense in the NFL. And then the Cardinals, obviously, they played well. They took advantage of the Cowboys defense. And now, to be honest with you, I expected this game to be much more high scoring. I expected to be in the 30s. You heard what I said. I thought it was going to be both teams in the 30s. I predicted that yesterday. That was not the case. This is a game that was 0-0 going to the second quarter. I was very surprised to see that. But the Cardinals ultimately, the Cowboys were, the Cardinals were the better team. Were they better by much? No. But were Cardinals better by, was this the best Cardinals game ever? No. they played well, but Kyler Murray went 9 of 24 passing, 188 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. I mean, he missed 15 passes. It really is one of those things where you're just sitting there and you're like, it really is just one of those things where they were able to squeak this one out because they were playing against this Dallas Cowboys defense, a defense that is horrible, a defense that is absolutely horrific. And this is a team. This is just one of these things where this is a Cardinals team where they played well, but they definitely, this was not their best performance. They obviously go out there and play better, or the Cowboys go out there and play better. This is an interesting ball game. But the Cardinals were able to slip away with this one. Kyler Murray obviously had 2 touchdowns. He played pretty well, 93.8 rating. Just the completion percentage was just not great. Kenyon Drake had a big game. 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. Murray had a touchdown rushing. Receiving Christian Kirk had 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught big ones. And, other than that, Chase Edmonds, he had a big week last week, struggled this week. Just one of those things where, you don't really know if you can really believe in him 100%. Cardinals moved to 4-2. And as for Andy Dalton, he struggled 54 attempts. 7.8 average, 266 yards, 1 pick, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 3 sacks, and a rating of 65.8. Elliott went to 49 yards, rushing, really struggled, and then the 2 fumbles, and we're not able to gain each of those back. And he did get benched. There was 2 possessions there where he was not playing. So Pollard got some carries as well. Cooper had 79 yards and a touchdown. Lamb had 64 yards. Elliott had 31 yards, and he also had that fumble. Just one of those things where this is a Cowboys team that's got to go back to the drawing board. At the moment, I still believe they can win the division, but now with all this stuff releasing about the coaches, it's just not great for them. And that's not what you want out of a team, especially the Cowboys. They're a big franchise, one of the richest franchises in sports, if not the richest. I would have to go look back at that. I know the Lakers, Yankees, Knicks, and Cowboys are all up there. I'm not sure. I think they're all top 5, but I'm not sure who the richest is. You got a big name owner in Jerry Jones, who everyone knows. You have just your logo is so controversial. Everybody thinks of that star as just a hate. Nobody likes the Cowboys. Cowboys are probably one of the most hated football teams out there, and a lot of people right now are bashing them due to this. But you look at the roster they have. If only they can just get a better defense, and their defense too. Their secondary, their defense doesn't have bad players. They're just not chemming well. They don't have good chemistry, and they're just not communicating well. There are so many miscommunications on this defense I'm noticing. I was looking yesterday. I counted. There was like 6, 7, 8 miscommunications in one drive where either a guy was supposed to be in his zone, he was not in his zone, a guy left his zone, guy was supposed to be in man, went into zone. There were so many times in that game. If there's so many times in that game where the Dallas Cowboys had so many bad plays on defense, and that cost them. Kyler Murray didn't even have to have that good of a game in order to win. He could have threw 1 pick. He could have threw 2 picks, and they still would have won that game because their defense is that bad. And that's the problem with this Dallas team. 10 points isn't good either, so I want to kind of make that clear. 10 points isn't good either. Scoring 10 points is not good. It's tough to win a ball game with 10 points. It's also tough to win a ball game when your defense lets up 38. So both sides, I would say, was to blame for the Dallas Cowboys loss. Not just the defense, but also the offense. Because the offense only put up 10 points, but the defense also almost allowed 40 once again. And the Cowboys now are, through the first 6 games, are the 5th team in history to almost let up they let up 218 points in the first 6 games. So, it is what it is. It's going to be interesting. So anyway, that was definitely a blowout. I was not expecting that to be a blowout, but it was. So anyway, with all that being said, we will move on to our next topic. We got fantasy football results coming up next. Alrighty, so now we move on to our next topic, which is fantasy football, and I'm adding a little twist to it this time around I'm adding a little twist to it as I'm adding a little bit of a twist to it, as I would say. I'm going to kind of give you what happened in my fantasy leagues and then also what players to pick up. Usually I don't do this, but I kind of thought today maybe I could, and maybe for a future now I could do this. Maybe tell you who you could pick up, because today's a big waiver day, and I notice what happens is I go on to Friday's podcast, and I haven't got any recommendations, but I notice I go on to Friday's podcast and I talk about fantasy. But I don't tell you any moves you should make earlier in the week. And I was kind of thinking about this last night when I was looking at my lineup. I was like, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow we should do a thing where, maybe tomorrow I should do a thing where, maybe tomorrow I should do a thing where I tell people what to do. Waiver wires. Guys you could claim off of waiver wires. Guys that are injured that you should bench and pick up another player for. Things like that. Because if Friday, you probably already made up your mind. So my advice on Friday is probably not really helpful. So it is different. Now we move on to the fantasy football thing. So first off, I want to say in my both leagues, I lost in my one league 122 to 120 or 140 to 102. And then I lost in my other league 98 to 57. Horrible performance in my other league. I mean, I had a couple guys. I mean, my most points scored was 16, and that wasn't even my quarterback. That's the sad part. You probably would have thought that was my quarterback. And even my opponent, he didn't have the best week ever. He just had, he was just playing against me, who really struggled. He had a big day by the Giants defense, a big day for Josh Allen, and a big day for Joe Mixon, and a big day for Kenyon Drake. Actually, no. Josh Allen didn't play very well. It was really the Giants' defense and Kenyon Drake that really helped him. Kenyon Drake almost got him 30. Kenyon Drake almost got as many points as my whole team did. So it really is crazy. He really, good win for him. Tough loss for me. I moved to 2-4 in that league. And in my other league, I moved to 3-3. And I lost 140 to 102. I'm not really. I'm angry that I lost, obviously, because you never want to lose. If you're happy that you lost, I don't know. It's kind of odd. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't say this. My other league makes me angry more because I only put up 57 points. I only scored 57 points. That is horrible. I mean, that is just horrible. This league, I scored 102. I could beat everyone in my league. I actually scored the third most points this week in my other league. It was 140, then the second most was 117, then I was at 102. There was a couple people in my league that only scored 70 this week. So I scored the third most points. Unlucky. I got unlucky, and I had to go up against the person who ended up scoring the most points this week. Put up 140. Even if I would have had a good week and put up 130, I still would have lost. So either way, I'm not expecting my team to put up 150 in a week. So I did lose this game, but it's kind of out of my control. It's not like I lost 60 to 50 in my other league, like I lost 98 to 50. It's not like that where I could have been like way more than 50 points. But this week, I scored 102. If I play up against one person in my league scored 93. If I play against them, who I actually play against them this upcoming week, I would have won that game. So there definitely is, that kind of thing in my other league where I'm like, you know what, I played a person who had an absolute breakout of a week. They had Derrick Henry on their team. They had Julio Jones on their team. Everyone on their team scored at least, all their skill position players outside of kicker and defense scored at least 8 points. I had a couple players score 1 point, 2 point, and I was still able to manage to get to 102. Even if I would have put in A.J. Brown and Chase Claypool, I wouldn't have won this game either way. So it's not like I could have made moves that would have won me this game. Either way, I would have lost. My opponent scored 38 more points than I did. They have a big game, and I can't do anything about it. No matter how much, even if I would have put in A.J. Brown and Chase Claypool, I still would have lost. They would have got me 30 more points. I would have only lost by 8, but I still would have lost. So, it is tough, but I obviously hope that I can continue to get better, because 3-3 isn't a great position. I am second right now in my division. And I'm not, and I would say second is not bad. My division leader is 5-1, so I'm second in my division. That's the thing. The fourth place person in my division is 1-5, so I'm feeling pretty confident that if I can continue to win, I will squeak in. Right now, I'm projected to finish sixth. I'm projected to finish sixth. So, and this is my upcoming schedule. I'm playing a 1-5 team, then I'm playing a 5-1 team, and then I'm playing a 3-3 team, then I'm playing at the moment a 1-5 team. So I have a winnable game this week. Next week's going to be tough because I do play a 5-1 team, but if I can get a win, 4-3, and maybe I pull out another one, 5-3, I got to get on a win streak. And I said this the other week. I said this the other day. I have to get on a win streak. I can't take any of these more. I can't take this anymore where this crazy, I win one and then I lose. I win one and I lose, right? I can't do that. It's just not good. I'm not going to be able to get into the playoffs like that if I win one game and then I lose. It's just a little, it stinks because I get a win, then I lose. I get a win, then I lose. Like, I can't do that anymore. I got to get on a consistent win streak. I said this the other day. 2-3 game win streak is what I need. If I can get on a 2-3 game win streak, I'm 6-3. I'm in a solid position instead of winning one, losing one, winning one, losing one. It's difficult to make the playoffs at 500. So I got to start to get on these win streaks and start to win more ball games. So with all that being said, these are some players you can pick up off of waivers. So at the moment, I have one pending move. I'm dropping Rodrigo Blankenship, picking up Daniel Carlson. It's just one of those things where it's a kicker, so nothing special. Let me see. What players have bye weeks? Zach Ertz, for example. Zach Ertz is injured. He's out. He's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. If you're in a position like I am, in my other league at least, my other league I still have George Kittle, but in this league I luckily have Hunter Henry as my backup. If you're in a position where you have Zach Ertz and he's out and you have and your tight end, let's just say, is on a bye week, or you're only carrying one tight end, that could also be a possibility. And you're in a position where your top available tight ends are Gronk, Hawkinson, Hooper, any of them. Even if Jimmy Graham's in there, or Hunter Henry, definitely, if Hunter Henry's on waivers, you're in a pretty good league because Hunter Henry's a pretty solid guy to pick up. So if you're in one of those positions, then I can understand. But I will admit, tight ends, and I've always said this forever now, I wish fantasy did something different with tight ends. I don't even know if there should be a waiver wire for tight ends, because tight ends on the waiver wire, none of them are very solid. Tight ends is just so odd. But anyway, so I kind of was just thinking about this. A possible thing could be pick up Gronk. I don't know. He had one big week. I'm still not buying this whole Gronk Brady renewed thing again. Everybody's starting up this Gronk and Brady are back to their old selves like it was one big game. You got to see how he does. If I were you, I would try to work out a trade. Try to work out some sort of trade. If your opponent needs a running back and you have a solid running back, give him a running back. If he has a solid tight end, get a tight end in return. Let's just say you have, maybe you have Kenyon Drake and you're willing to give him up, because I know a lot of people have been trading Kenyon Drake because of his kind of slow start to the season. He did, in fact, have a big game last week. But if you're in a situation where Kenyon Drake's sitting on your bench and you have Ertz at tight end and he's out and your waiver wire is pretty thin, if you have Kenyon Drake sitting on your bench, you're in a pretty gosh darn good fantasy league. You got a pretty gosh darn good team, because Kenyon Drake on your bench is, and not many people do that. Kenyon Drake's pretty much a starter. So if you have Kenyon Drake on your bench, or you've been benching Kenyon Drake because of his little slow start, you could definitely do that and maybe ask for Hunter Henry in return. You give them Kenyon Drake, you get Henry in return. If their running back core is really thin, they'll accept it. Believe me, I did it the other day. I traded with a person whose quarterback was really thin. They were literally rocking Daniel Jones. I gave him Breeze. He accepted it. You give a person a position that they need badly, they'll accept it. So Even if you don't need that position badly, they'll accept it, and you'll get a good player in return for it. But don't make it too lopsided where you're giving them Kenyon Drake and you're getting George Kittle. Like, don't do something. I mean, if they accept it, then do it. But more than likely, they're not going to accept that. Like, don't ask for Travis Kelce and George Kittle and give them Kenyon Drake. That's just not smart. As for Kenyon Drake, you could probably maybe get, if your opponent has Hunter Henry, you could possibly get him. Jonnu Smith, you might have to add another player in there. Maybe give him a running back and a wide receiver package for Jonnu Smith, and maybe just an average wide receiver from him, because Jonnu Smith's a solid player and he can have breakouts, and I don't know if Kenyon Drake for Jonnu Smith straight up is really a very fair trade for that person. I think you would definitely win that trade. But if you're in a situation like that, or not even just Kenyon Drake, give them a running back if they need a running back, or if they need a receiver. If they need a tight end, then I would not recommend trying. I would not recommend. 2, Jared Cook could be an emergency option. Could be an option, not an emergency option because Jared Cook's good, but because you might see him and Emmanuel Sanders, their touches get limited because Michael Thomas is coming back. So if you're in a situation like that, if somebody has Jared Cook, maybe give them. You can maybe even try to pull off where you're giving them Ertz and they give you Cook, or you're giving them a solid running back, they're giving you a pretty solid tight end, right? Something like that. That's just something to look out for. And I hope you all have backup quarterbacks. And if you don't, some quarterbacks that could be on the waiver wire. I don't know if I really believe in this whole Minshew thing anymore. Roethlisberger has stepped up his game in the past 2 weeks. Last week he struggled, but he's been every game he's scored at least 22 points except last week. So he's been in the 20s if you want maybe a consistent. But I don't know, I don't know if you want to take that gamble because Tennessee has a very good secondary, very good zone reads, and I don't know if Roethlisberger without Juju, because Juju's completely out of the equation. It's another thing too. I'm looking to trade Juju. I am looking to trade Juju. And in my league at the moment, I have a deal going, dropping Zach Ertz, picking up Ronald Jones. I really like this. If this can come through. Don't ask me how in the world Ronald Jones has been on waiver wire since day one. I mean, nobody has even picked him up or drafted him. Ronald Jones has been on waiver wire since the first game of the season. 8 points, 8 points, 7 points, 12 points, 12 points, 24 points. I mean, this is a guy, I'm very surprised he's still on waiver wire. So, I was going to pick him up this upcoming week, and I was going to sit him on the bench because I had Gurley in them. And sure enough, hindsight 2020, should have picked him up and started him. But I wasn't even thinking about that. So I am going to pick him up this week. I don't know if it's a guarantee that I'm going to start him. But Zach Ertz is out 3 to 4 weeks, and I don't have any use for him. George Kittle's my tight end, and his bye week's week 11. So that's 4 weeks from now, so I don't have to really worry about it. If he gets injured, then I'll try to trade for one, or, I'll try to trade for one. My league, the tight ends actually aren't too slim. Actually, they're pretty slim. Jared Cook's actually available. But you might see, like I said, him get limited now because Michael Thomas is getting back. So all this Emmanuel Sanders hype up and this Jared Cook hype up might go down a little bit because Thomas is back. And Drew Brees is definitely going to throw to Thomas. I mean, there's no other way around it. But Ronald Jones could be a guy too. If he's somehow in your league, I don't know how he is. Will Fuller. I know a lot of people really believe in Fuller. He's had a couple really good weeks this season. 11, 0, 11, 16, 11, 18. He's actually a solid player. He's going to give you a solid 11 points is pretty much where I'm getting with this. So definitely I think that will be a pretty solid move if you are in fact doing that. So definitely I think those are a couple moves that you definitely could make coming up this week. As a matter of fact, I might pick up Will Fuller and drop DJ Moore. DJ Moore's been sitting on my bench. I haven't started him 1 week this week. And his bye week is... When is his bye week? It's week 13. Jeez, they have a late bye week. When is Will Fuller's bye week? They already had theirs, didn't they? No. Week 8. I don't know. I might hold off on that. Because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to drop DJ Moore. Someone's going to get injured on my team. And I'm going to have to put in DJ Moore. And he's not going to be available. And then Will Fuller's got a bye week. So I might wait for that. But I would definitely be watching that. So Will Fuller could too be an option. I know a lot of leagues have Will Fuller. A lot of people believe in Will Fuller. A lot of people are high on him. 2 years ago, I was very high on Will Fuller. I remember I was playing fantasy. I drafted him early. I regret that decision because he did not play very well. But now, without DeAndre Hopkins, he's the main target now. He is Deshaun Watson's new main target. But yeah, to be honest, if you're looking for guys like that, those are just some guys to keep in mind. Not saying you have to pick them up, but definitely could be some options. On trades, just make them fair, because you're not going to get away with trades. You might get away with a trade like, unfair. You might, but more than likely, people are going to reject a trade that is not fair, right? So you want to make sure you get fair trades. Now, of course, you can make a trade. You can make a trade where, let's just say, you can make a trade where it's slightly lopsided to you, and no other people would really notice it. But if it's crazy lopsided, like if you're trying to make a trade for, you're giving up Zach Ertz, and you're getting George Kittle, like that's an unfair trade. Zach Ertz just for George Kittle is unfair. You might have to get Zach Ertz and some other player for George Kittle and like an average receiver. And that's not. So just make fair trades, because you're not going to get away with it. If you're asking for Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott for Robert Woods, or you're trying to give up DJ Moore for Zach Ertz and Ezekiel Elliott, if you're trying to give up Zach Ertz and getting Dalvin Cook and Elliott, nobody's going to accept that. So you just got to make fair deals. And those fair deals, I'm not saying just because, you might, if you can get a lopsided deal like that, sure, go ahead. But more than likely you're not. So you got to make sure they're fair, because that's the best way that person's going to accept it. So anyway, upcoming today, we got the World Series Game 1. Tyler Glasnow versus Clayton Kershaw on the mound. Dodgers, 8:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. This is going to be an amazing series, an amazing game. Go Dodgers. I got the Dodgers winning Game 1, 6-4. From what I saw to them from those final 3 games, obviously they came back from the 3-1 deficit to, obviously they came back from down 3 games to 1 game, came back, won 3 straight, and moved on to the World Series. They're on a high right now. Seager playing well. Betts' defense is insane. Bellinger started to pick it up. The Dodgers are moving well right now. And as for the Rays, they actually slumped their way into the World Series. They were up 3-0, then they lost 3 straight, then they won, but the Dodgers are on a consistent winning streak. So I think the Dodgers win. And you take a lot of that momentum from the other day. They already know, and that's one of the big keys, they already know this field. They already know the Rangers field. They've been playing here from the start of the playoffs. Rays, they're brand new to this. So the Dodgers have a little bit of advantage in that category. So I think the Dodgers win 6-4 Game 1. So it's going to be fun. And my series prediction, Dodgers win in 6. That's my series prediction. Dodgers win in 6. There's been so many 7-game series. I could always just sit here and tell you 7. I think Dodgers win in 6 or 7. Something like that. Because the Dodgers are a very good team, so are the Rays. But at the end of the day, just if the Dodgers hitting can catch fire, they don't even need that great of pitching. I mean, they have such clutch hitters on that team. I mean, and their defense. Have you seen the plays Mookie Betts has made? 2 unreal plays. I mean, just insane. And he has lived up to every penny so far, that big contract he got from the Dodgers early on in the season. I mean, I remember I was talking about that on the opening day pod. So he really has. So really going to be a good game. And this is a very good World Series. And I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a good series. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a good series. I don't see a sweep. Although if it is a sweep, it's a sweep. I don't see one coming, but there's definitely that chance, I guess. I mean, anything's possible, I guess, in sports. Although I don't foresee a team sweeping another team. But this is going to be a fun series, so hopefully it's a good series, because I like good series. Don't want to see a blowout. I mean, if it's a blowout and the Rays get to go home losers, then I'm okay with that. But I just want the Dodgers to win, whether it's in 4 games, whether it's in 5 games, 6, 7, or however many games. I just want the Dodgers to win. So, anyway, enjoy the World Series tonight. Should be a very good game. I will be watching, and I will give you all coverage on it tomorrow. What happened, thoughts, just kind of takeaways from the game. So, really going to be a fun game. I'm excited for it. Hopefully you are as well. So, World Series Game 1 tonight. Enjoy it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.